Hi there. Welcome to On the Flip Side, a podcast for anyone who wants to live their best sales life. We're going to be talking to buyers, sales managers, SDRs, and A's about things like what does it take to be a great sales manager? Or how can you go home happy month after month? So let's dive right in.
Hey, it's great to have you here on the flip side. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Shruti. How are you?
Great. And, as we were preparing for this, I told you that the first thing I like to ask everyone is what is the first thing you've ever sold in life? And you had the funnest answer that I've heard. Can you tell everyone what is the first thing you've sold?
Typically, as a lot of kids are into play cricket, I grew up watching Kapil Dev, David Boone, Tendulkar, Gavaskar play, right? And I wanted to get into cricket. My dad and mum were very supportive.
You just dated yourself by naming those cricketers.
And I was very fascinated. I did a lot of coaching. We went to a lot of... I trained with Brijesh, Rajabini and everyone and got into the Bangalore district team. But, towards the 12th standard, like every family has a way, you have to get into odd medicine, that typical that age, right? And they were like, okay, cricket is done. You're good. You had your fun. Now study. Now you have to study, right? And my dad was like, okay, cricket coaching stops now. You have to concentrate on your studies because 12th standard is come. You're gone to 12th standard, right? So I had this lovely pair of, Kakana bat and the gloves and everything. It's like it was gifted to me. Some of it was gifted to me by my coaches and some of it I had bought and they were very well, right? So what I did was I sold it off in the cricket camp itself and I paid for my coaching. So I could continue coaching without my dad and my mom knowing that I've paid for it. Like, and they were like, okay, it must be like an honorary or a complimentary thing. Because he was good in the cricket, so they want him to play for the camp and everything. And I used to be like, yeah, they're playing me for the camp and all. They like me, so I want to go train for them. So that was the first thing I ever sold in my life. My mom one day opened the kit and asked, okay, where are your, your pads were different, your bat was different. I'm like, oh, somebody took it, how it is. People steal all the time. So I play near the jungle and all. I don't know, somebody might have just taken it. I'm so sorry. Made up just a story and I don't think I ever sold in my life.
I would be curious to hear how that was negotiated, but maybe that's for another day. And of course, I'm talking to you not as a cricketer. So can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing, post selling that cricket kit? Has it been more sales, more marketing?
A lot of people, right, ask me what have I done. So when a kid is confused in India, right, you ask him to do engineering, right? And when they're even more confused, you tell them join something like an Infosys TCS. Even after that, they're confused, you tell them go do your marketing, right? Go do an MBA. Even in MBA, if they're confused, they pick on this stream called marketing. Right? I followed that entire confusion path, right? I took on engineering, went to Infosys, did my MBA, and then did my marketing, right? Post-marketing, I had a semblance of what I wanted to get into, luckily, because I had a great bunch of professors and they like drilled it into me, okay, you need to think, you need to understand what you want to do, you have to plan yourself out. And I was like, okay, let me think. So got into this edtech firm called Manipal, had a great bunch of mentors there. They introduced me to technology marketing, as I could say so. I wrote my first API there, connecting my CRM with my email sending software. So that was like a big win for me in terms of my own personal accomplishment. From there on, I picked up automation. I fell in love with automation and technology marketing, right? From there on, I moved to another very small firm, which was into basically an offline firm providing fitness education to schools. Then moved to the core edtech platform, and then came to, I would not call it a blip in my career, but I would call it a, that was the era, I think this was the 2017, 18ish, where everyone was like, okay, I want to be a founder, I want to be an entrepreneur. Right? And I was like, okay, what am I good at? I'm good at marketing automation. Let me start my own agency, right? And I was like,
you make it sound like I missed that bus. I started a bit too late.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I have to do this now. I have to do this. I'll start my own agency. I started my own agency. And then I realized, okay, I really am not going to crack this, right? I realized it in 6 months, I'm not going to crack this. It's not going to happen. Luckily, picked me up for Clever. Had a good run at moved to Carix. Unfortunately, due to COVID, I had to move back to Bangalore. And now I'm trying to crack marketing for B2B sales enterprise again.
Interesting. And can you share a few lessons that you learned, being a founder? And also, because I think a lot of times people, of course, come to starting a company from different paths, right? Sometimes they come from technology, sometimes they come from sales, and of course, sometimes they come from marketing. And I think everybody has a different point of view on where they will succeed, where their strengths lie, right? And looks like what you started was a combination, of course, where your strengths lay, but it didn't somehow pan out. And I think there are some important lessons there for everyone.
So one of the things that, I started off with my co-founder, we wanted to productize marketing automation and we wanted to build a platform where irrespective of whether you're using something like CleverTap, WebEngage, HubSpot, MailChimp. You could integrate all of that and see it in one single dashboard, right? We thought of funding this product by providing services first, right? Because obviously we were bootstrapped. We didn't have any angel investors behind us. We didn't have anybody behind us, right? So we were like, okay, we will first take on a certain consulting gigs and we will fund the project. What happened during the funding of the project was we didn't have a core tech person with us, right? And the lack of that person basically delayed the product so much that within 6 to 8 months, we were like, okay, this product is not going to come out. This product is not being built. We don't have visibility into this product. It was a pain point, yes. We have talked to a lot of companies by then. Companies in different formats, different functions use different marketing tech tools, right? Maybe the product team used Mandrill for sending out transactional emails. The marketing team used CleverTap, right? And you wanted all this data to be aggregated in one place, right?
So you didn't have a tech co-founder, and meant that while you knew that the problem existed, it was hard to
we were not able to crack making that product, right? And we soon realized that providing services was not going to cut it for us. Like we couldn't scale with services so much, right? I mean, then we would have to go down the conventional services route, and we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to become a marketing automation agency of sort. We wanted to become a more product, right? Like omni-channel product. I mean, you wanted to have one platform where you could feed in all your department's data and run campaigns on them, irrespective of where you are from. Like if you are from, say, the product team, you would just choose like the connector Mandrill and then send your campaigns. If you're from the marketing team, you would go to CleverTap and then choose it. Something like that, right? We wanted to build it out. However, that remained a dream, and we went our different paths.
Got it. Okay. And I think that a lot of times what we underestimate is the importance of the thing that maybe we are not as familiar with and the complexity there, right? And I think that's maybe a lesson as people are starting out teams, which is to make sure that whatever is a core component of what you need to get to your MVP, whether that is and that's always a combination of the ability to reach your customers and the ability to make something that they will like. I think it's important to make sure that both of those exist. And of course, as part of the evolution of the company, and at least this is something that I realized myself, was early on, it's about doing things that don't scale, right? So you go and find your first 20 customers through the network, through other non-scalable means. And then as one of the parts when you begin to start thinking about scaling is, of course, marketing. Right, you want to bring in somebody so that you can then reach out to a larger audience. And I'm curious to hear, like, what is your advice on for a founder who's looking to get started with marketing, right? What should be the first thing they should do? Should they hire an agency? Should they go take a course themselves? Should they hire one person? Should they hire a team? There are many options, and I know many people make this mistake. And since you've been in the deep end with some companies, would love to hear your advice on this.
It's a fantastic question, and I think it's a good debatable question, right? I mean, everyone has their views and no one is right or wrong in it, right? But if I had to put myself out there and I had to take a point of view, I would take a point of view of hiring your director/VP marketing first, right? The reason being, you hire somebody who's good at a higher level in the sense of strategy and can basically understand what your company needs, what the org needs, and can hire accordingly in terms of execution, right? And having a higher level, B-level marketer in your team first basically gives you that confidence or gives you that ability to make sure your brand or your other components that you're not going to focus on early is still being taken into consideration. Because when you look at an agency, or when you look at, say, you hire very tactical or execution marketers, which are very young marketers, right? You would be basically telling them what to do, right? You are not going to ask them, okay, what needs to be done, right? So when you tell them what to do, you're telling them from your experience. You're telling them from what the business requires. Like a founder would tell me, hey, this is what the business requires. But I also know, okay, this is the immediate or, the short-term demand need, there has to be a long-term focus as well. Otherwise, we are going to burn out. We are going to die, right? So I would always advise, getting a VP/director level person first, right? Once that is done, then you can build the team around that person, right? He or she can basically direct you and tell you, okay, hey, and typically what I've seen is either if you are in the pre-product market fit stage, you don't have your key accounts yet, you have not proven the pain point that you envision is actually, the product is actually solving that problem, right? Generally, I've seen product marketers take on that role where they come on as a VP or /head of marketing. Post, you getting into a lot of key accounts, you have proven that there is a need in the market for this kind of a product. You have gone in, you typically get a demand gen or a growth person to be that VP/director, right? Because you need to fuel your growth, right? So typically I've seen that, and every one of them comes with, like, I wouldn't say they're a T-shaped marketer, but mostly M-shaped, right? A product marketer would possibly be possibly depth into, say, PR or say communications, comms as such, and then basically would be like a M-shaped marketer or an N-shaped marketer, like 2 prongs down or 3 prongs deep down, right? Similarly for demand gen, they would be good in 3 things or 4 things, right? 2 things, right? Then they can actually hire where they are not competent enough. And I think that's the hallmark of a great marketer that you need to hire, where they are very open about what they are not good at, right? They want to be, you don't want to be a person, you don't want to hire somebody who would say, okay, I'm good at everything, right? That those unicorns exist, but are very rare, right? Somebody who's good at everything at a particular stage in their career, right? I mean, those unicorns do exist. I'm not saying they don't, but it's very, very rare, right? So you've got to make the choice.
So just to clarify, right, what are the 2 or 3 kind of very different things that a marketer could be good at, right? And how do you kind of map that to the stage of the company or to the type of the company, right? So, one of the things, of course, that you mentioned was demand gen. The second thing you mentioned was product marketing, right? Is there something else?
Typically, I've seen these 2 functions basically rise up to like a VP or director level, right? The reason being because when, like I said, right, when you're in a pre-product market fit stage, pre-PMF stage, right, you would need a product marketer who can basically go and do user research with you, who can basically look at the branding, positioning, messaging of these brands, right? Post that you come to, when if you have not hired your VP director level up till your product market fit and you're looking after your product market fit, you would basically require a sense of growth. You require a sense of, okay, I want to grow like 1.5x or 2x of my current year, right? I want to go at 5x my current year. I want to go 3x of my current year, right? So that's the time when typically your demand gen folks bubble up to your VP director level, right? So these are the 2 streams that I've seen, and basically it's like pre-PMF and post-PMF stage. Once you reach like a series C or D, you basically require somebody who has, led a brand as such and grown a brand, right? Because that time these functions each become super specialized. So you have like a VP of demand generation, VP of product, VP of content marketing, VP of everything. So you need somebody who has basically taken your organization and understood how to create that brand and how to maintain that brand.
Got it. No, I think that makes sense. And would you say that when a person, when a founder is looking to kind of start marketing as a function, they literally can't go to one person and decide that I'll bring one person? Because a lot of times you've thought of it that way when you brought on your first salesperson, right? You could bring in one salesperson and that person could do something. But sounds like what you're saying is that a single marketer maybe can't do anything. And that might seem like a lot of investment. So what is your advice? What does the bare minimum team need to look like? And what are the different options that people might have to augment it externally?
Sure. So again, I'm a big believer in an in-house marketing team, right? I love the entire concept of having a big in-house marketing team. However, again, it's mapped to the company stages, right? I mean, if you're pre-PMF, you would require at the bare minimum, 3 or 4 folks supplemented with an agency, right? When you go to the post-PMF stage, you want somebody who's running campaigns for you, who's looking at content day in and day out for you, who's basically looking at your product launches day in and day out for you, and somebody who's looking at your demand gen campaign, right? So you've got to look at the sub-functions which you are going to focus on, or which the company needs you to focus on at the current moment, right? And then you basically fill in for those. Now, typically marketers...
What you mentioned was that, of course, there are many different specializations, and I think that's something that a lot of founders miss out on, right? They think that they can hire one marketer and get started, and because you're used to thinking of doing things small before you scale them up, right? So you hire one salesperson, you get something. But sounds like you can't just hire one marketer and hope to get something out of it, right? So what are the options that somebody has if they want to be capital efficient and run this as an experiment, right? Like, what does the bare minimum skeletal structure of a marketing team need to look like for somebody who's just starting out with marketing as a company? And then which components you think are more amenable to maybe being outsourced or working with like an agency for?
So it all depends upon the team, the person that you hire, right? That person needs to be comfortable understanding what that person can guide internally, right? And what that person can not guide internally or needs basic help on, right? Once you're able to determine that, you basically know, okay, I can hire, say, for example, I'll give my example, right? If I come to any company, I'm decent at demand generation. I'm decent at understanding what content needs to be done. I'm not so great at brand, right? So if I have to come into an organization and somebody comes to me and says me, okay, hey, Sid, I need you to help me with this. What I would do is basically understand what is the requirement needed in terms of brand. And then I would go and look out, say, for an agency. Because even if I were to hire a brand person, I wouldn't know what to guide them, right? And the agency can handhold me from 0 to 1 in terms of brand, right? Once that 0 to 1 has been accomplished, I probably understand what needs to be done, and then I can hire a local brand person, right? Similarly, so that is in my head. In terms of bare skeletal structure that the team needs, right? It all depends upon the organization goals. Are you looking to grow, say, 5x in a year, right? If you are, then you need a demand gen team. Are you looking to establish yourself as a go-to person, say for a particular function, right? I mean, if for example, if we are into Verloop is into customer support automation. If I'm looking to capture the customer support automation mind space, then I need a very good content team, right? Which can basically produce content in different various formats, whether it be podcasts, whether it be webinars, whether it be blogs, whether it be videos, right? Whichever format available, right, to me. Apart from that, what I'm trying to convey from this is the fact that you figure out what is the need of the company that is needed, the organization, the goals that need from the organization. See whether the VP director is strong or weak at, right? And then look at hiring that in-house and the agency, right? If you're not going to say, for example, a lot of startups pre-PMS do not want to concentrate on building their brand, right? They want to just understand whether the product is actually marketable in a particular region or not. Right? You don't want to hire a brand agency to do branding for you because you don't have that much money investment, right? So you do not want to hire that brand. You do not want to hire, say, a PR person internally, right? But if you are a post PMF person, you have got, like, say, traction in a particular region. You have 100 plus customers there. You want to build on that, right? So you need a strong PR and a brand play in that region, right? Now, when you require a strong PR and a brand play in that region, you want somebody to lead, somebody to help you with brand. So you would definitely either make a brand team or an agency. Now, choosing between internal versus external, it's the fact that how much investment can you put on yourself in terms of mentoring that particular function, incubating that function. If you don't have that bandwidth, if you don't probably have that capacity to incubate that function as of today, then always go external, right? But if you have the capacity to ingest that function, to train, to basically even fail at and learn and then grow from it, then incubate it internally.
No, I think that kind of makes sense, though I would say that wouldn't you replace that with maybe hiring somebody relatively experienced in that role? So maybe that person doesn't need as much hand-holding, right? Does that work?
It works. So for example, if you're looking out for PR, right, and you hire somebody who has done PR in the past, who has basically led PR in the teams, right, you can hire. And that again comes on to the investment that the company is ready to put behind, right? Because somebody who's experienced in a particular function will not come at a very budget-friendly cost, right? So if the organization is okay in investing in mid to senior folks for a particular function, then great. Then definitely bring those people on because they can guide very well, right? But if the organization is slightly on a budget, right, you want to be on a tight economical lease in terms of your team structure, then you've got to make that trade-off. It's all about trade-offs, right? So either you trade off on the money or you trade off on, internal versus external.
Yeah, it is definitely all about trade-offs. And I think marketing folks know that better than most other functions. What mistakes do you see founders making, right, at that stage when they're when they're just getting started with marketing as an in-house function, right? When you're working with an agency, and I'm asking this because I've gone through this journey myself, right? I worked with an agency. The agency came highly recommended, but something went wrong, right? But then it's easy to part ways because it's an agency. You can go look for another agency. You can have very clearly defined metrics. You can tell them that, listen, I want my website traffic to increase by this much and I want my leads to increase by that much. And if it doesn't happen, everybody knows what went wrong. But is that the same way that a founder should think about when they're bringing on board a marketer? And what mistakes do you see them making?
So a lot of times, Shruti, like you talked about an agency, right? You talked about how you burnt your fingers and then you parted ways, right? We also tend to not look at the time lost in that time, right? Because when you bring on an agency, there is an onboarding availability needed. You need to train them on your product. You need to train them in your business. And then you need to tell them, okay, what kind of, you're basically spent a lot of time enabling that agency to produce the output that is needed, right? You're trying to give in your 100% to make sure the agency is trying to deliver on that, right? If that agency fails, you've not only lost the agency, but you've also lost that time, right? In terms of an internal marketing person, right? When you enable that person and if you've hired correctly, right? And this is where the hiring makes a lot important I'm putting on the focus on the hiring. If you hire decently well, right? And you put in that same effort on enabling, right? I don't see it failing. I've never seen that somebody who has the founder or the founding team has enabled the marketing team and they have failed, right? Obviously, there will be failures. You pick on some campaigns will go for a toss. Some campaigns you will hit it out of the park, right? I mean, it's a 20-80%, right? 20% of your campaigns will bring you 80% of your returns, right? Which is fair enough, right? And the number one mistake I see with founders bringing on, the VP directors is expecting them to have like a magic wand in their hands, right? It's like, okay, I don't have leads and okay, they assume that this person comes with a magic wand and says, okay, abracadabra, and there is like lead flow from tomorrow, right? And it's like, okay, you have joined in today, my marketing should improve from tomorrow. It does not work like that. It does not work like that. right?
I must admit that, I was surprised that Google ad campaigns don't go live the moment you turn them on, and they have a learning period of their own and a mind of their own. So yeah.
Yeah, so when marketers join the team, everyone's like, okay, take a couple of days, take a week, and then bring me a plan by next week, right? And the marketers are generally put under pressure, and you're like, okay, sure, but what plan for what, right? So it's like the founders have to enable them in terms of tell them, okay, this is what our journey is going to be like, and marketing always needs to work 2 to 3 quarters ahead. Right? Marketers are not building for this quarter. Marketers should always build for 2 to 3 quarters, because the pipeline you're building today will be consumed, say, later. Right? It's not going to be consumed today unless you are in a very small ACV model. If you're in a B2B enterprise, and I'm talking from the perspective of B2B enterprise SaaS, right?
Right.
The pipeline that you build today will be consumed 2 to 3 quarters down the line, right? So in that manner, I would say that founders should not expect to come with a wand and say, okay, today I have a zero in pipe. By the end of this month, I'll have like $500,000 in my pipeline. How? I don't know. The marketer has come. He has a magic wand, right? Or she has magic in her fingers. She has like magic in her fingers, and she'll just like type something or do a Google ad campaign, and I'll get money. No, that doesn't happen. So, and and I would not say it's the fault of only founders. It's also the fault of us marketers, right? Because when we go on to, when you go on to social media channels, right? We overplay what we do. We overplay how marketing is not so mysterious. How marketing is so simple. Anybody can do it, right? And when we want to say that, what we mean is that it's not like a dark magic secret or something. It's teachable. It's doable by everyone. But you've got to invest time and effort. And everything has a trade-off, right? You want instant leads, you need to go into demand generation. You don't go to paid demand generation. You want organic traffic to build up, you've got to invest in organic traffic. You've got to, a lot of founders come to me and we don't need a zero budget, right? And I look at them and I'm like, no, for organic, you do need a budget. You do need to make contacts in the industry. You do need to give money, and you need to talk money, and you need to strike partnerships, right? Maybe there's a revenue sharing partnership. Maybe there's any other way of partnerships, right? There is money involved. So you've got to understand what, the marketing, we marketers have made ourselves put ourselves in more misery, right? Because we tend to overplay ours and say that, okay, marketing is simple. You can get started, and you have these marketers out in the world who are promising 0 to 100,000 visitors in 2 weeks, grow your traffic from 0 to 20,000 visitors in 5 weeks. And everyone's like, oh, okay, this person has done it. Why can't my marketing head do it, right? Or they look at and a lot of problem happens is when founders typically look at different competition areas and say, okay, this brand did it so well, right? But that brand at the stage that you are in, probably say 5 or 6 years ago, the environment and the entire ecosystem was very different. As of today, the ecosystem is very different. Like maybe the industry has matured enough and there are a lot of competitive players. That time there were no competitors. So even a simple marketing campaign which just said, okay, get a free tool for something would work. Now it won't work, right? So I would say that founders should give that space to marketers, give them time to understand the business, understand what the goals are, and give them that rope to focus on long term, right? Because short term will eat your marketing function life, right? The more and more short term you focus on, the more and more you will see churn in your marketing suite. And you will see your director leaving in say a year and a half. You will see the next VP coming and leaving in a couple of years. Because focusing on short term is super exhausting, right? You're always trying to optimize your campaign, always trying to push it forward, and you have a limited budget, right? So you need to basically move that into the funnel. Right? You don't have unlimited budget.
So I think, picking up from there and switching tracks a little bit, right? Which is moving down the funnel. And I know, typically marketers and salespeople love each other. Sometimes things go wrong though. I'm sure you have your own battle scars of working with sales teams, things not working out. And I used to don the hat on the other side. And when marketing used to chase me down, asking me for feedback on the leads that we got from the recent campaign they ran, I would be like, how do you expect me to give you feedback right now, right? It's only been like 4 weeks since the campaign started and we haven't even gone through the wholesale cycle yet. And so, of course, it's always a love-hate relationship. What do you think, what do you see are maybe the 3 things that go wrong most often in that interface? Right? And if you were sitting on the other side of the table, right, as a salesperson, what do you think you would want to tell the marketer so that it would lead to better success for both?
I'll just label the 3 things out, right? Because like you said, I've had a lot of battle scars also, right? The first thing is trust, right? Sales folks should trust that the marketer know what they're doing. Like they're not idiots. Right? A lot of sales folks tend to believe, "Arey, हमारी तो marketing," like I'll go on a slightly Hindi shoot, "हमारी तो marketing कुछ करती नहीं है यार, इनकी marketing देखो कितनी बढ़िया है." right? It's roughly translates, oh, look at the competition. They're doing so well in marketing. Our marketing head doesn't know what he or she is doing, right? Trust that your marketer has the best interest at heart. Trust that the marketer is building the pipeline. Second is clear-cut KPIs, right? If marketing is getting a revenue responsibility, right, then the marketing team has the right to know what is happening with those leads, what's happening with those opportunities, when is the meeting scheduled, why is it getting delayed, how can you push that, how is the deal can be pushed faster, right? If marketing is responsible for pipeline, right, then it's like, okay, then marketers asking a question is more for inquisitiveness and asking the quality. I mean, the trust is a huge factor, right? Sales folks should trust that marketers know what they're doing. Marketers also have the best interest of the company. Marketers are not just here to take a spin out and just to put their legs up and relax on a sunny beach. It may look like that when they are sitting in a room and trying to plan some campaigns, but it does not. It did not like that. Marketers do take the pressure, right? Clear-cut KPIs, know what marketing is responsible for and judge them for it, right? Don't pressurize them and say that, okay, if you have built the pipeline, don't tell them, okay, the revenue didn't come from the pipeline. Then that's not their responsibility. Their responsibility ends at pipeline. So don't blame them if the conversions are not happening. And the third thing between sales and marketing, what I feel sales go wrong, is that a lot of sales folks tend to get into a lot of marketing metrics and say that we are not ranking for number one, we are not ranking for number two in this organic keyword. Why is it? The competition is ranking. Why are we not ranking? The marketer knows this data in and out.
Can you go back to the marketing metrics piece?
So a lot of sales folks try to get into the marketing metrics, right? And tell them, okay, we are not ranking organically, or look at their ads are showing up on my feed. Our ads are not showing up on my feed. Marketers know their campaigns, right? Trust the marketers to not be like, okay, I don't know what my campaign is doing. Okay, I don't know what I'm writing about. They know they can. Give constructive feedback, not caustic feedback. Don't belittle the belittling each other. So belittling, what happens is when sales and marketing get off on the wrong foot, it's all about proving the other team wrong, right? And trying to finger blame, right? Marketers and sales are like the mother and the father of revenue. And you've got to play that role. You've got to play the parents, owning revenue as a child. You can't have them fighting when it comes to revenue. Marketing enables the sales team to drive more scale, and sales is the one who's closing it, right? What I see the marketers doing wrong is thinking that sales folks are idiots and they're not converting all of their pipeline, right? Like, oh, this pipeline was there. Why didn't they convert it? The win was right there, right? How can they not win it? How could they lose it to competition? Like, okay, if you are that good, then why don't you go sell yourself? Trust the sales guys are also doing their job. They also, because, sales guys are incentivized to do their jobs. They have their commissions on it, right? They do not want to lose a sale. They feel more bad about losing a sale than you as a marketer. So, the marketers also get it wrong. And what marketers don't tend to, because of the constant friction, what marketers don't get to understand is the fact that sales can give you good feedback. Sales can give you local marketing feedback, which probably you wouldn't have right now, right? It's tough for a marketer to get feedback from only their sources or from, the data. There is a ground level information which the sales team has that you don't possess.
And actually, that's kind of where we see a lot of marketing folks actually loving and using Wingman, because they just, love the fact that they can now have their ears on the ground without having to trouble or have friction with the salesperson. Because it's, of course, important for marketers, but it's also painful for salespeople to, kind of compile feedback, give feedback and all that.
Yeah. So you look at a sales profile, right? The salesperson is expected to maintain relationships and close, right? You don't expect them to do a lot of admin work for them,
exactly.
Right? They're already updating Salesforce. They're already updating all the metrics that is needed. They're working with the CS team. And again, I'm speaking from a B2B enterprise perspective, right? B2B SaaS enterprise, right? They're updating the CS team. They're working with their clients. They're seeing what has gone wrong. Maybe it's 10 o'clock in the night and, something is not working for them, right? The tool is basically crashing for them. The platform is crashed, right? They want to, they're assuaging the client. They're trying to tell them, okay, it's it's an AWS outage. It's not our outage. You relax. We're getting it back up. You don't need to worry, right? And in between this, if the marketing team, say a content person goes up to the sales guy and says, okay, can you compile a feedback of the last 10 calls you had around this campaign? No, the guy would be like, okay, like the person would be like, are you serious? Like, you see what is burning on my back. You see that quota that is not being filled. You see the clients on my head shouting. You see the CS team trying to ask me for a document on what has gone live, what has not gone live, right? So it's the fact that you were talking about Wingman, right? And I've made it mandatory for my entire marketing team to listen to at least 10 calls in a week from the sales from Wingman recordings, right? And everyone has their own perspectives around it. And when you take the entire marketing team, right, it's like a bunch of 7-8 folks, right? And they look at each call and they take out their own derivatives out of it, right? And then we discuss that feedback, right? We have a meeting where we discuss that sales feedback. right? Okay, this is what the client wanted. This is what the customer was looking for. This is the language that they were talking in, right? And that's a brilliant way to input for marketing. That's a brilliant input for a marketing function.
Makes sense. Yeah, and I think that's maybe the one point of collaboration, right? Which is collaborate on the messaging, because sales, of course, has their ears on the ground all the time, and maybe leave the other parts of it in terms of optimization metrics, etc., alone, and vice versa, right? So for marketers, also leave the other conversion metrics alone, because kind of trust the fact that whoever's running sales also is trying to optimize for that.
Yeah, I mean, the trust factor is probably the biggest factor.
Makes sense.
Trust. I mean, I've seen that broken so many times, right? Because it's like, I think it gets off on the wrong foot. Sales don't give marketing their due. Marketers don't give, and then they go into siloed function, and then the founder basically has to play like a referee between both of them all the time. Right? That kind of situation is easily avoidable when you bring sales and marketing onto a single platform and you tell them, okay, I need this much revenue, right? Now, both of you go and get it, right? I mean, the entire talk about attribution, the entire talk about first touch, last touch, multi-touch, it's all risen because somebody wants to prove that they are better than, right?
Yeah.
You remove attribution from your system, right? Remove attribution. Like, I mean, and think of a utopian world. Remove attribution, right? Your marketing and your sales team is judged on whether they met the entire content.
Makes sense.
Right?
On that note, yesterday on LinkedIn, I saw this post by Sahil which said, this is a radical idea, but maybe we should stop judging marketing for lead gen and pipeline created. The KPI should be to do kind of magical things and create big bangs. I don't know where we stand on that, but I would love to hear how people can find you and who should look out for you and what do you love to talk about on social media.
So on social media, I love to talk about, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part.
Yeah. Where can people find you on social media and who should connect with you and why?
Oh, on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn alone. Twitter is just for my rant days where I feel frustrated with the world around me. It's a rant book for me, Twitter. LinkedIn is where I basically talk about, my professional career. Who should connect with me? Anybody who wants to talk about SaaS marketing, right? I can talk for hours, and you can probably, give a certification of that. I can talk for hours on marketing. I love marketing as a nature, right? I think that's funnel I was talking about, where you don't know what to do and you go into all this. The last part, the catch-all, really became my focus stream area in my life. Right? If I were to do everything all over again, I would still choose marketing as my function, and especially in SaaS enterprise marketing. I mean, this is a fascinating area. I love this area. It's like an area which always keeps on giving in terms of learning, right? I mean, today there's a different thing. Tomorrow there's a different thing. It's brilliant. It's just amazing what all we can accomplish here.
Awesome. So for anyone who's passionate about SaaS marketing or just wants to learn more about it, go ahead and connect with Sid. Yeah, I've had many fun conversations with him as I've tried to think about how to build marketing as a function and such for Wingman. But yeah, thanks so much, Sid, for making the time, and this was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Shruti, for having me.